Good day, everyone, and welcome to Unpacking
2020 and
2020
2024.
to 2024. And we will also be talking a bit about 2019 in the run up to 2020 as well as 2025. And we're doing this for people to see how much the world has changed and how people are really getting used to massive change as if it's nothing. And might I say that this is a very deliberate ploy to make things happen at breakneck speed because people just adjust to that and it becomes normal.
It's too fast to think about it to resist anything.
Correct. And it's very effective.
It's too much too
Mm.
fast. So you don't even think about organizing to resist anything that could be very, very anti-humanity, as I like to say. So let's get into it. As early disclaimer here, the audio or video recording of this presentation is allowed, although we are putting it on YouTube. No content within the presentation is to be discussed in public or social media platforms, as per usual. The information contained herein is our intellectual property, and all rights of redistribution of copies in any form is our own. The presentation is for the information of the viewer attending the Zoom meetings only. We've done presentations where Des specifically has discussed very sensitive topics. What we're discussing today, pretty much everything is already in the public domain.
Yeah.
We're just trying to give a perspective. So what we really hope to achieve through this presentation is for each participant to walk away with a solid understanding of the scope, breadth, width of how much and how fast things have changed in only 5 years and how different life was not too long ago. And when we have that picture in our minds, it allows us to move forward with clarity and understand exactly what we need to do, how we need to invest our money, invest our time, and decide what are we going to do for the next 5 years, 10 years, and beyond.
Yeah. And I think that is super important. If we can just move on to the first slide, objective of what we are doing. When people say the person has an agenda, we have an objective. Everyone has an agenda. When people say that someone has an agenda, I think absolutely, otherwise they're not alive. But our objective for this specific presentation is we will be reviewing how our world has changed in the last 5 years. Since the pandemic, a lot has happened. And we will be exploring how normal life has transformed with regards to pandemic response, artificial intelligence, global conflicts, digitization, and shock events. The global population has become accustomed to a certain level of chaos since 2020, and that is the key, that they've become accustomed to it. And it's important to process and take in these changes so that we can plan for the future accordingly with a big picture in mind.
Absolutely. I don't think we've necessarily internalized and processed, and hopefully this entire presentation will help you to do so. So before we get started, I'd love to open with an exercise. And it's a bit of a challenging exercise, if I dare say so myself. I want you to think back on life before 2019. Pick a year even, like 2012 or
That's not a
2015.
good year.
2012? Oh, maybe based on it. No, I was just thinking, yeah. Anytime before 2019, the earlier, the better. And try remember personal events. What did you do? Did you go to a specific birthday party? Did something happen at work that was significant? Try think back on those memories. For me, it's easy. My kids were a certain age. They were toddlers and young and just starting grade one. So it's easy to try and physically embody the memory of those times. And I would like you to do the same. What milestones did you achieve? You don't have to share them, of course. I just want you to get back into that mindset. So we'll spend a minute or two on that. What I have spoken about before on the channel when I was still doing videos with you regularly is how I miss the time when we didn't have Wi-Fi or fiber at home, where you had to buy data, especially to watch a movie. And because it was expensive, you didn't do it often. And you'd have to go to the video shop to watch with a DVD player if you're going to be looking at a screen. People weren't permanently on an app of some kind, using apps all the time for so many different things. And I really miss that.
I think people forget how much things like YouTube has proliferated since 2020 and how this was planned for beforehand. So the infrastructure was being put in place and how governments were like clockwork in lockstep, open up frequencies
Mm.
so that more can be consumed, so that more data is available. So you have fast
We'll get
internet.
to the technology side, but just how did you feel? What did you spend your time doing? You know, did you have quiet moments sitting outside? Did you read books more? How was your life different? Just think about that for a little while we let the last few people in. And as stated here in the slide, it's important to embody what life felt like back then so we can understand the magnitude of change that has taken place and which we will proceed to discuss. We really want you to physiologically comprehend the change, the rapid changes, the insane and rapid changes. If anyone wants to share anything about how they felt pre-2019, how life was pre-2019 for them, then you are welcome to raise your hand. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the age of innocence and trust, or at least that's what I call this. So it's two separate ages, the age of innocence, which is pretty much before 2010, and then the age of trust, which occurred from around 2010 until early to mid 2019. And this is pretty much innocence is what I came up with when I thought back on the instant connectivity. We didn't have access to endless information. Life was very different, very slow paced compared to now. We didn't Google things so quickly. So there's a rapid sending and transmitting of information, which can cause anxiety, can make us better informed, many pros and cons, but ultimately life was more slow paced with regards to specifically the amount of information we took in. And then our social interactions were, of course, more personal, in person. And then the age of innocence led way to the age of trust, where we started to become internet literate, for lack of a better phrase. So yeah, let's just discuss some aspects of the age of innocence. This was before smartphones and constant connectivity. Do you remember those little phones, what we call the Tilly phones,
Yes.
where you pretty much only SMS or phone someone? You couldn't really do anything else. Maybe some of the fancier ones had one or two other options, but you pretty much were just phoning people and SMSing. Wow. And then time was mostly
You could take the
analog.
battery out
You could take the
and
battery out,
literally
yeah.
kill the
Yes,
phone.
you
Yes.
could. Time was mostly analog. So what we mean by that, you were reading books or you were actually socializing in person. You shopped at a shop, not shopped online, as an example. Um, you watched TV and went to the DVD store, not constantly streamed on Netflix or Disney or whatever you use. And then the mental freedom aspect. Yo, we are bombarded with a lot of information these days. In the age of innocence, pre-2010, what a glorious time. We were not reachable 24/7. There weren't apps like WhatsApp where people are allowed to constantly intrude onto your life, family members, neighbors, neighborhood watch groups, who knows what, your kids' school group or whatever it is. There's
Teachers.
constant interruption into our lives, and we didn't have that pre-2010. And we didn't expect to know everything instantly. So there were lots of things we didn't know. And then that knowledge eroded our innocence. And then because we didn't have constant internet connection, we didn't Google as much. So we might have made decisions in ignorance. And if we might have just left things a mystery. So we might not have known certain things. I think Dr. Google became a little bit of a thing where if you have ailments, you'll Google them and come up with maybe quite a accurate diagnosis sometimes. And we didn't have that back then. So you'd actually have to rely on human expertise and trust, which leads us into the next age, the age of trust. And this is from about 2010 to about 2019. So think of it this way, people started to use smartphones, which I think was great for business, especially if you had a small business that you had to run. It made
They
things a
became
lot easier.
computers. They were like a computer in your hand
A
at that
computer in the
stage. Yeah.
palm of your hand. And with the onset of the smartphone, technology, and apps, it started making life easier. So it felt great, right?
And a lot of people trusted what they saw in their searches. It's almost like they're getting what they want,
Yes.
and therefore they trust it.
So we had lots of apps. I mean, we were using Google Maps. We still are. Uber, Airbnb, less popular, yeah, back then. Facebook, Gmail, YouTube as well, but YouTube became more popular much later, even though it's quite an old app, if you can
Mm.
call it that. So that leads us to the next thing. We embrace these platforms. They were making life great. They were making business fast and efficient, making our lives fast and efficient too. But the result was that, and I say we generalizing, I know there's lots of wakey people in this chat that were probably skeptical long before. But generally speaking, we entrusted our lives to private companies, to these massive tech corporations with little questioning. We didn't care about our personal data or finances or online identities or social circles. We weren't connecting Facebook to the CIA necessarily. So we still inherently trusted any authority. And we assumed that most people, as well as companies, as well as government, had no ill intent. And some people still have that mentality today, but it's definitely a lot less. And this is why I say it's the age of trust. The collective consciousness, the majority of people definitely put their trust in any authority, whether it's business, government, or individual. And
Schools.
that has changed a lot. We did believe connection as inherently good progress. More technology is faster progress. That's wonderful. We want to progress. We want to make more money. We want to use our time more efficiently. So we viewed it with that trusting and also innocent mindset. And then we were still in the infancy of technological advancement, at least personally. And we were excited, or some of us were, about AI, automation, 4G, remember 4G, smartphones, and even cryptocurrency, not yet seeing the darkest side. And then this era marks the rise of Facebook. What year was it when you got your first Facebook page? I think it was 2008 for me.
2008.
When we
You
met.
must have had Facebook
It was just
before
before
then.
we met. Do you think?
Yeah, it was just before.
Yeah, just before. So Facebook, then Instagram, which was less popular here in South Africa, and then also algorithms. By algorithms, I mean this constant feed curated to your profiled personality online.
Facebook back then wasn't for you to build your business or anything like that. It was
To connect
very
with
different.
community in Australia,
Yeah.
or to find a group that loves Milo hot drink at
That
night.
is how everyone got lured in.
Yes, I remember there was a Facebook group on I eat Milo out of the tub with a spoon. There's
That's
literally a
me.
group. But it was
That was me.
just an innocent space. It was really just to connect with local people, your high school enemies and friends.
Yeah. For the
And
corporation, it was never innocent.
no.
Yeah.
That's how we
And the
grew.
CIA.
And then, unfortunately, there's also where children began to be given access
Mm.
to smartphones and the internet. All of a sudden, oh, you could just quieten down a tantrum by just a wave of a magic wand. And all of a sudden, baby's quiet. And this became quite a pandemic, which people are waking up to now. Oh, Dorita, we're all farmers and
Yes.
comfortable. Yes, and Candy Crush as well.
Well, I actually saw people hand phones to
Babies become
babies
babies.
to keep them quiet.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable when I saw this. And even people in this community that believe in what we are doing. Because you go down that road, the child doesn't know how to want to demand their parents' attention. They want a device. They were literally born with a smartphone in
In
their
their
hands.
hands. Not a silver spoon. They were born with a magical device.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. So, just with the context, as we go into the next section, just remember this time of innocence and trust, where we did not quite understand the scope of conspiracy against humanity.
Well, I do want to say before we move on to the next phase that I think many people in this community were already asking questions. You were already asking questions. I had already been exposed to a lot. But none of us expected what happened next.
Or the speed.
Nobody.
Or the speed
I
of.
don't think anyone. I think people were shocked, and this is where a vast amount of people in the world entered the rabbit hole, literally,
Yes. I
for the
think we were
first time.
introduced to the rabbit hole at various stages of life,
Yeah, like on the
various
surface,
people.
but you didn't dive in.
No, we dipped our toe in the rabbit hole before this. And then the age of disruption and awakening. Again, also this basically I combine this into one. There's not going to be like two separate disruption and age of awakening. It's one. It's something that's happening side by side. What happened with the global pandemic was a disruption, and it caused people to wake up from their slumber. It literally woke them from their dreams and got people questioning. So they could use the technology from the previous era, so to speak, to now research. And that had various results, some
Mm.
positive and some negative.
And I think the wishful outcome was that you would be able to now put in people's minds and addict them so much to YouTube and many other social media platforms that you can now manipulate people more. And I think, if you look at what Bill Gates said, it actually had the opposite effect because they did not expect how many people he believes are absolute nutcases, conspiracy theorists, would now get platforms that they would never have had before, according to the way he thinks.
Yeah, I suppose we would also be nutcases in his books. So, 2019, when we mentioned 2019 in this context, we're talking pretty much about the last quarter of 2019, but we just had to increase it. And we'll go through the different characteristics of the age of disruption and awakening. And was it an exciting time, a crazy time? I think some families were split apart. And it all started with a global pandemic, the ushering in of the Great Reset, or the precursor to the Great Reset. Um, and yeah, what we saw is the broken trust in systems and authority, mainly due to the pandemic response actions. People started to lose trust in mainstream media, the government, and science. And as a result, there was a worldwide questioning of systems. And we're seeing that
Mm.
everywhere. Yeah, locally in South Africa and abroad. It took a while, but it happened. Governments showed their true colors through lockdowns, through dealing with disobedient citizens. Corporate power became more obvious and less
Mm.
trusted. And this government showing their true colors, thank goodness for apps like YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, where videos were shown of moms being arrested for not wearing a mask or whatever it was. Some of the government actions were truly brutal. In South Africa, a man was murdered by the military for drinking on his stoep.
And all those troops were got off scot-free
Of course they did.
because they went to a military tribunal. They're not subject to courts, and
Mm.
that is why, or the normal justice
That's true.
system. Yeah, well, that is why the military shouldn't be allowed among
Mm.
citizens normally.
And this is something we came into contact a lot while we toured, the conversations from you guys, how society and family specifically were split apart, mainly due to two main outlooks. One being that the pandemic was an unfortunate thing that happened to the world, and the other outlook is that it was an orchestrated event to result in a certain outcome, namely population control. And those two viewpoints have split us apart, and more people are coming onto the latter side of the camp these days. And then instant access to endless information. Stats show how much more time, especially in South Africa, people are spending online. It's actually quite scary. I'll tell you the stat now. In 2018, there were 35.6 million internet users. Now in 2025, it's jumped to 50.8 million. But then also the amount of time in South Africa where we spend on the internet is a lot higher than most other countries. I think we're the top 6 in the world in terms of how many hours we spend per day on the internet. And that's frightening considering that quite a lot of people don't have full access to the internet in this country. We are spending a lot of time, granted, probably for work and school as well. But how much screens have taken over our lives is horrible if we stop and think about it. So, as a result, we experience fatigue, stress, and even depression from info overload. Whether that information is true or not is irrelevant. It's too much, and children are not immune as well. And we've seen the statistics over the past few years how depression and suicide has risen in teens specifically.
And the government never forced the people to hand cell phones to the kids. There was no
No.
drive from government to hand cell phones to the kids. They knew that people would do it naturally because people actually do not want to parent.
I actually think my generation, the entire millennial generation, was never prepared for marriage or parenthood.
Mm.
So we just fall into it and cope. And one way of coping is just throwing out those smartphones to those kids or video games. Social media has been used as a tool for radical polarization. So remember the age of trust? We use social media to connect with auntie or uncle or friend from high school. No more. Now it's actually being used as a tool to promote your business or cause, or it's being used as a tool to manipulate public perception towards a certain angle. And it can be quite effective. With governments and governments and corporations can push a certain angle or certain content that ultimately is very divisive. Anger sells more than love, peace, and compassion. Always remember that.
Mark Zuckerberg was actually brought before Congress and admitted that Facebook was actually pushing posts that would solicit anger in people
Absolutely.
because it would give them more time on Facebook. They would spend more time on the social media platforms. And you'll see large corporations within a specific sphere of industry, especially the digital spheres, would purchase other platforms so that you get monopolies of control, like Facebook and Instagram and. I mean, you can carry on and on. So that was a very big part of being able to control people is the type of information you show them. An algorithm, the algorithm became a huge topic during this time. Before, I don't think people were even aware that algorithms were showing them specific
They weren't
things.
aware, yeah.
During this time, people became aware that their children were being shown different adverts to what they were being shown. And then they started realizing that they are being watched, that the camera is actually on and watching who is actually operating the phone
Not just the
and
camera, the
listening.
microphone.
Yes, listening to what is happening. So that was quite a big deal in people not trusting anymore, certain people. And many people actually have no problem with it at all.
Hmm. So more also, there's a few other symptoms as well. One I didn't add onto the slide, but the transgender movement exploded during this time as well. More people work remotely or online or have adopted second income streams that are online based, and education is taking place more and more on the online world as well now in currently 2025, but it started throughout the pandemic. Truth seeking. So lockdowns meant people had a lot of time on their hands, and we toured during lockdown, so people weren't working, and we gathered in
It
all
was a
parts
lot
of
of
the
work.
country. Here's what I'm
My
saying.
throat can testify.
People weren't working. They were
Oh,
free to come to
yes.
these meetings, which was great. There was a lot of time on people's hands, and because of this, and because of the uncertainty in the world, we actually researched. We could dedicate our time to Googling things and watching videos. And you started your channel way before 2019,
2017 already.
but it took a different turn
Correct.
during the pandemic.
2020, I
Yes.
changed the name and yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, so because of the pandemic, we started to use the internet to now try get answers to our questions. What's going on? Why are governments doing this? And starting to dig deeper.
I think what's important is that people were traumatized by what was happening. I was traumatized by what was happening. And I think the main reason why I was traumatized is because of the realization of the fact that I was told that this was going to happen in future. Didn't necessarily believe it, but always kept it in the back of my mind. And what else it meant.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
What other things could be
your
true.
dad was right about some other things, potentially. Eek.
Yeah, which is not.
Parameters. So we're going to be looking at each year now. From the end of 2019, so we'll include November, December of 2019 up until 2024. And these are pretty much the parameters we're looking at: technology and AI, geopolitical shifts and conflicts, of which there have been many. South Africa, politics, economy, and society, discoveries and scientific breakthroughs, minerals, resources, and energy politics, global supply chains and logistics, major global events and social shocks, culture, media, and identity, and then work, meaning, and the future of society.
So all these points that we used for these different years doesn't mean all of the years would have something significant with regards to any one of these points, but these were the parameters that we used. And it was important for the purpose of this presentation that we show you the change because that's the purpose. So this is not going to be a long drawn out presentation. We could have added a lot more to it. I actually said an
Indeed.
hour. I said an hour for the presentation, but it'll probably be longer because we'll probably have questions at the end.
Guessing an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's a lot that happened, but we really try to narrow it down to the main events.
But if you can use any of these 9 points here to do research yourself in what is changing in future, you'll
Especially
be.
number 5 and 6.
Yeah.
It's really going to mark the future. And
I don't
how,
think a lot of people don't look at 5 and 6.
no, and how countries relate to one another.
Yes. And this is key because global politics are being shaped by those things.
Yes.
5 and 6 at this stage. And this is not something I might speak about often. I do mention it. I drop hints all the time. Rare earth minerals.
You do a lot.
And South Africa's role in that. And you know, a lot of people try and say that South Africa is not that important, that we're not necessary for rare earth minerals. But like I said many times before, our rare earth minerals has already been mined. It's already been through processes. It's sitting on top of the ground in mine heaps. I mean, it's so easy to get our rare earth minerals. And there's actually many articles coming out now about that, and the US's interest directly in what we are doing here now. So, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so just before we get started, just take 10 seconds again to just embody life in 2010. Somewhere around there, 2011, somewhere around there. And just remember how innocent it was. I remember, for instance, a memory of the kids being super young and me picking granadilla with them in our little garden, our tiny little garden.
Yeah.
Life was so different. We had a little tiddly Nokia phone or whatever that we kept somewhere. We didn't have it on us. There was no WhatsApp groups for a million different things. You'd literally phone someone. You'd phone your dad or you'd phone your mom. You wouldn't just get WhatsApps or send WhatsApps. Photos were taken with a camera still because the cell phones could not take nice pictures. Things were more still. Things were more memorable. Just sit with that for a moment and then we'll start the great, absolute onslaught of events from 2019.
But just remember that the world doesn't have to be this way.
No.
We can choose how we want the world to be. It is absolutely our choice. And yet, people in government, people in corporations are saying all the time that we have no choice, that this is going to happen. So that is propaganda. It's
despise that
yeah,
mentality.
it's propaganda and it's being used all the time, very effectively, especially with people that aren't searching for truth. Okay.
Yeah, let's get started. Sorry, my laptop, you can press the space bar anyway. I added this because it was a fun one. Greta Thunberg and millions of young people participating in school strikes. So obviously, there was that first incident with Greta where she sat in front of the government building in Sweden with a little placard and a little yellow raincoat.
And then the press was there just by chance.
Yeah, by chance, I know.
Yeah.
And in 2019, there was a much bigger coordinated climate change strike. So I think climate change has now become very normal. Even Prince Charles tried to say it was climate change that caused the pandemic. Was it him? I think it was him.
I definitely think that the resistance to what it was called before has been so huge that a lot of people that don't want to be unpopular have to say that they don't think it's an existential threat right now. So a lot of people have taken up that stance, and it's sad that the word climate change is used because the climate
Changes.
changes.
No, it's not sad. It's
And
brilliant.
the sun is one of the greatest drivers of climate change, and people are going to see their gat. Entire cities will, because of the climate shifting. And throughout the ages, we have greenery and where we have deserts on Earth have changed. We have a lot of geological evidence for
And
this.
humans can move around,
Correct.
except we live in a time where nomadic culture has ceased. So it's
People
very
have gone and
interesting.
built massive structures literally on floodplains and tsunami coastlines.
Exactly. I'm going to jump around quickly. I'm going to read these in order. I just want to talk about the black hole, the first image of a black hole, because things have changed so much since then.
The theory now is that we're living in a black hole. So
Yeah, so from 2019 to 2025, a
yeah,
lot has changed. So we had our first image of a black hole in April, and now in 2025, what was the theory?
we are living in a black hole.
Inside one.
Yeah, and there's strong evidence for this from astronomers. So
Yes.
they believe strongly that the possibility is there that we are living within a black hole. And they're trying to understand what that means.
Who remembers the Notre Dame fire in Paris? That was a big one. And then another one that was kind of funny is when Donald Trump went and visited Kim Jong-un on the border of North
Yeah.
Korea.
And yes, you will see things flaring up all over the world now as well. I mean, I can tie it into what's happening now because we're not going to cover this here fully.
Mm.
But Kim Jong-un's sister is all of a sudden in the media, and you need to take note of this. And she says our greatest enemy, according to the reports, is South Korea. So just understand what this means. The fact that North Korea, according to reports, is now declaring war on Ukraine and sending more troops to
But back
Russia.
to 2019,
Yeah.
veganism. Veganism became quite a thing during that period. It became more popular, more influencers started to speak about it, and for very good reason. Why do you think veganism became such a thing?
It was pushed and funded,
For what end?
getting rid of cows. So if you get rid of the animals that can provide protein to sustain human beings, um, animals are a very good food source, even if many people might not agree that we should be eating animals. You know, crops can fail quite easily because of various circumstances that animals can survive, like very cold conditions, etc. There's places on Earth where animals survive in minus 70 degrees Celsius. It's incredible, actually. Where plants will not survive, that would feed you. So just there's places where people only eat animals and fish, nothing else, because there's no plants,
Yeah,
no
sure.
fruit, nothing.
Nothing. So you can definitely do that. So it became mainstream. It wasn't really a talking point at all before. Now every second video on Instagram is vegan, vegan, vegan. Where are we? Brexit development. So Brexit didn't finalize in 2019, but there were major developments in it, in the concept of Brexiting. And the US-China trade war and geopolitical tensions. I mean, everything stays the same, doesn't it? Ongoing tariff battles reshape the global economy yet again, while the US North Korea nuclear talks stalled amid missile tests, delaying diplomatic progress. Do you remember? Do you remember those times?
Everything was about North Korea. The media pummeled us with North Korean stories and the threat of North Korea. And I need people to understand that North Korea, if you look at the size of the country, etc., if anyone wanted to, they could collapse that country easily. So everything that's happening there is absolutely allowed. And this people need to understand. What is happening there is being allowed, which means it's part of the global playbook.
Okay, Donald Trump was impeached over allegations that he improperly sought help from Ukraine to boost his chances of re-election. In the end, he was cleared. And then, of course, da-da-da-dum, COVID-19 pandemic. The first deaths in China are reported in December. There was a scary movie going, not movie, a video going around. I still thought, no man, this is scenes from a movie that people are leaking. But then
You
panic.
always say things are fake.
Yeah, it's my first
Firstly, like,
assumption. I need evidence
it's
that it's
fake,
not.
yes.
And panic started to set in some people. Yeah, in the news, there was a lady that died. I don't know if it was in 2019 or early 2020. A
22.
lady in Paarl that died.
No,
Um,
Kailicha.
and wine farm.
Okay.
You don't remember? Okay.
The first person was a lady in Kailicha.
Yeah.
She worked for Italian people that
Okay.
came from overseas. That was what the media reported,
Okay.
I just have to say.
So yeah, it was definitely we weren't in lockdown yet. There was still uncertainty, but some people were on high alert, other people not so much. But the most important thing here is that TikTok expands globally in preparation, in my opinion, for the pandemic that's about to go down. Social video content dominates. YouTube, Insta stories thrive, but not yet as much as we're about to see.
TikTok just became something in South Africa. The news spoke of Naspers and Tencent that produced TikTok. Naspers, obviously, South African company who had the largest share in Tencent, who was the producer of TikTok. So those ties to China, you should find interesting, considering where it comes from.
ChatGPT released, but not to the public due to misuse risks. US and China race in the drone AI, and this is a
This
continuous
is
theme.
GPT-2.
Project Maven controversy continues. Google claims quantum supremacy with Sycamore chip. This is just a brief overview of AI and technology. And then misinformation, deepfake of Nancy Pelosi slow speech sparks concern. I remember, I'm pretty sure it was 2018, where I shared a little documentary, a very short documentary on a clip on how deepfakes are actually the biggest threat to our future. I think it was a TED talk, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, in 2019, we're actually seeing deepfakes in action. I remember that Nancy Pelosi
Yeah, but if you
video.
look at from there to where it is now,
Yes,
the progression, the rapid
so
progression of
different.
fake,
So different.
yeah.
I think you've actually specified some crazy videos on YouTube that are AI generated and the capabilities and possibilities.
There's incredible videos now that are AI generated, and the only reason why I know that is because I'm trying to spot fake things, and it's the narrative, the wording, many things where you can actually pick it up. However, for how long? That is the question.
True.
You could see a video of us, and it could all be completely and utterly fake.
I could.
So that is why you tell people while you still can, I will never sell something or endorse some Bitcoin product or anything.
8th of May in South Africa, specifically some milestones in 2019. 8th of May were the national elections. Wow, where was the political landscape different then? OWN, fun fact, was registered as a party 14th of December, so 6 months prior. We were not yet ready to contest, but I watched those elections with keen interest. Durban Easter floods. Actually, every year there are floods and fires in this country, crazy ones. Service delivery protest beginning in Alexandria in early April. Nationwide protests over municipal failures led to looting, civil unrest, and 2 confirmed deaths across urban areas. So there have been different reasons and different incidents of social unrest as well. I don't know if you remember this one specifically. Xenophobic riots in Joburg, early September, violent attacks targeted foreign-owned businesses, causing fatalities, hundreds of arrests. You know, the one thing in preparing this presentation, you look at the global events, you look at South Africa, and South Africa is tame. We're used to the problems here. We're so used to the different types of problems we will be stating that it's like nothing to us. The rest of the world is absolutely crazy. And I think what it means is that here in South Africa, we have an opportunity to really rise above our little challenges and be a stable stronghold in this crazy world we live in.
The thing is, most of these things that happen, like xenophobic attacks and so on, it is orchestrated by groups of organized people
Yeah, it's not
that rally
just
communities.
people.
Communities
Yeah.
weren't started on their own normally. And when you actually find out who's behind these things, you can actually trace them to different people. The same group will move across the country, just like they move
Instantly.
weapons all over the country to cause violence and crime, which means that it's orchestrated.
It's State Capture, lovely, our favorite,
I
starting
hate those words.
to continue to dominate in the media. That was absolutely frustrating because it was such a charade, ultimately. And then this is where I come in. The Department of Basic Education publishes new scripted lesson plans for comprehensive sexuality education. And that's when I started the Facebook group. And in 2020, the next year, we put an end to it. Not completely, but mostly.
No, you put an end to
Forcing
the
of it.
forcing of these
Yes.
scripted lessons.
And that was quite something. Yeah, for me, even though it's a local issue, it's not something on the global stage. We harness,
News.
it was in the news a lot.
lot.
We harness the power of technology and activism, for lack of a better word, and stop the government in its tracks. And I'd really love to see that happen again for different reasons. So let's move on to 2020. Things are obviously heating up. We are in the midst of the pandemic. There are lockdowns across the country to varying degrees. March 11th, the pandemic was officially declared, and the World Health Organization officially confirmed a global pandemic, triggering lockdowns, travel bans. Remember those?
Those are governments that decided to do
Yeah.
those things based on the recommendations.
Remember when all the parliamentarians, all the leaders of parties stood in a row
With Cyril,
and were like, yes, yes,
because
yes.
there was no parliamentary sitting to
There
actually
wasn't.
make the decision, which
Illegal.
is illegal.
It did not follow the disaster protocol.
Yeah.
Market crash and economic shock. On March the 16th, the US Dow Jones crashed nearly 13%, one of history's fastest declines as economies shut down. Then, is
He died like a dog.
yes, the
My
assassination
word.
of well, how do you pronounce his name?
Soleimani.
Soleimani, on the 3rd of January.
That was a big deal because the people were so worked up against these people that for a US president to announce that they'd killed such a person was
Yeah,
a massive big
yeah,
deal. When in the big scheme of things, it's not.
yeah.
Not at all. You can make anything something big, like you make diamonds big when people before just threw it around like it's a little shiny stone. Anything can be turned into a massive big deal.
Global protests. Do you remember George Floyd and how
Yeah.
that ushered in an entire new
Once again,
movement?
funding, money, laundering.
Yes, yes. We won't go into the details, but I'm sure you remember that. And that happened in 2020. Actually, when I remembered the George Floyd case, just my memory, I didn't necessarily pin it to the pandemic time.
But it shows how people that are powerful control people on the ground and get them to behave a certain.
Oh, yeah, you appeal to emotion. Very easy. Trump was acquitted on the 5th of February after historic impeachment. The Belarus protests, August onwards, mass mobilizations against Lukashenko's contested elections. Fun times. And do you want to mention anything there?
No, it's just, I mean, things like that have continued,
Yeah,
but
they have.
yeah, it really started.
Yeah. These things.
The most important thing to me about Soleimani's attack is that it was a drone strike. It was someone sitting in a booth somewhere with a joystick flying a drone that could take out
That is very different.
that person.
Very different to how things were done before. The US-Iran tensions escalate, including missile attacks and seizures, continuing from early year provocations.
And we know where that ended up this year, very recently. So the build-up started then already for the many things that will take place from now until 2030.
Crazy.
AI and technology. So you can read through all of this in your own time. These are all very relevant things that happened. There might be other things that you might find, but these things relate to events that were where the media was used to promote something and drive it and drive it and drive it, like to a point of insanity. I mean, the level to which the media can harp onto one thing. I think that only happened in South Africa with Jacob Zuma, the Zuma Must Fall campaign,
Oh,
where
yes.
everyone was in lockstep.
Everyone.
Just yeah. They are still in lockstep today.
Indeed. So, AI and technology, Zoom becomes globally essential. Yeah, we are using Zoom right now. It's really become something we use for so many different things.
I didn't even know Zoom existed until 2020.
Yes, I mean, we knew of Skype back in the day, but that was
And
like,
everyone was saying Zoom is just
hi.
a Chinese spy network, which is
Yes,
exactly what it is.
but here we are.
But here we are.
Remote work boom obviously started a little bit earlier, but it became much more prolific during the lockdowns when people couldn't return to work. So you had to either have your meetings on Zoom and do work from home, or people lost their jobs and had to scramble to try and find something online. Mass digital migration, school therapy, shopping, and everything in between. We do so much online now.
This is a time when they started digging trenches in this country like you cannot believe for
Look
fiber.
at that. We toured the country,
Yeah,
so
we saw the open surf buckies everywhere.
everywhere.
Unbelievable. They were working, no masks wearing, balls to the wall, just digging slurter to put fiber in. So the infrastructure for digitization was taking place during this time. Even this town has fiber.
Even where
I
we
was shocked when I heard that they dug all the way to here.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
The infrastructure is empty.
especially through the slate.
Yeah.
Yes, like,
Also, one thing that's not on here, but people during the pandemic, everyone we spoke to were terrified of 5G towers.
mm,
And I remember you said that's the health effects everyone's talking about is the least of our worries.
yeah,
It's about the infrastructure
infrastructure.
that's
It
been
will
put in place to monitor, track, and trace every human
100%.
being.
Now, all these people that basically stoned me and crucified me, etc., they're all quiet now.
Indeed.
And this is unfortunately what trauma does to a person. So this is one of the consequences in 2020 when this global information just went ballistic. And many other sites besides YouTube, YouTube still controlled things to a degree. There are sites out there for any nutcase that could put information out there, come up with anything, and people would just buy it because of the distrust and the chaos.
Yeah. So Chat GPT-3 launched. This is first time text-based AI is widely explored. The autonomous drones are tested in Syria, Libya, and conflict zones. And then your favorite topic right now, IBM and Google push for better error correction in quantum bits. And quantum computing is something we should all be keeping tabs on,
This is,
to say the least.
yeah, these are things I monitor all the time. What is the latest information on it? Who's putting out the information? So I search for that info. You need to be interested in where quantum computing is at. And I actually saw an article today that the best quantum computers achieve a accuracy rate of an error rate of 0.0000 something percent. So it is getting there, and you need to understand why. You need to understand the quantum realm, quantum computing, what it claims to do, and then you might try and figure out what it actually is. And I don't think most people are ready for that info. Okay.
Election deepfakes rise, and I think will continue to do so. This is a fun one because there's also many conversations you've had in the past. Global crypto adoption surged a lot.
Massively.
Look at that number, 2,300% from mid-2019 to mid-2021.
Everything was just besides QAnon,
Yeah.
it
So
was
2020 was
crypto,
really in the midst of that heat.
Jasara, Nasara, all those things were pushed massively. And the only thing that's remained is cryptocurrency. The other things are gone now, swept under the rug. And people worshipped the people that promulgated all this nonsense. And I just called it what it is. And at the end of the day, people aren't held to account. And I know that's a separate topic, but I believe we're going to come to an age of accountability where people are going to start wanting people to account for the things that did and caused. Because around the world, people see injustice, people getting away with things, especially in government and in corporations. If you look at the COVID-19 pandemic, what happened with the debates around vaccinations now, today, and the information that's being put out there. What's going to happen to Alan Winde? What's going to happen to the mayor of Cape Town? What's going to happen to the president of the country? What's going to happen to all the companies that forced the employees or said, if you don't do this,
Can't come back to
you
work.
can't come back to work?
In many of those cases, it's
Yeah.
frightening.
Okay,
March the 5th, the first confirmed COVID-19 case in South Africa, March 5th. March 15th, national state of disaster declared. Lockdown begins 27th of March. Remember, for only 3 weeks.
Yeah.
The famous only 3 weeks. It's enough to stop the spread of the virus. So much for that.
Yes, and the ACDP president was standing there with Cyril,
And
just so people know.
such as ShopRite, Christopher's companies that absolutely benefited because we couldn't do anything, but we could grocery shop.
Yeah, I tell people, how did they know to stock up on toilet paper the way they did?
Water as well.
Yeah, their warehouses were full. There was no problem with supply. It was all pre-planned beautifully.
Enforcement was strict. Some countries were not as strict. Police used rubber bullets to enforce social distancing in Joburg. Lockdown intensifies later on in the year, and the social impact. Remember, the grant started being given 350 Rand for people that haven't got work. And unfortunately, I know personally from people's stories how that 350 was often used to buy alcohol, unfortunately. So it didn't actually help, it just worsened. There was more depression, more domestic violence, more alcohol abuse. The impact on society was incalculable because of the decisions of politicians who don't know better.
And you need to ask yourself, how much of this have you forgotten or isn't in your mind anymore? And the thing is, the answer is all of us because people move on so fast, especially when a culture in a country is being created, that's been created around the world now of trauma. People just chug on, and like you say, they don't have time to think and say, hey, we need to stop, like the STAR principle. Stop, think, act, review. Stop and then think. First stop, not go on
Mm.
100 miles an hour. And yeah, that's something really
That's the
important.
problem. When the lockdowns were eased, we just went
Yeah.
ahead.
And
World West
what did
ahead.
my dad say? 2 months.
2 years.
People, no, he said 2 months and everyone will be back to normal.
Okay.
You've forgotten about it.
So throughout April and May, the lockdown levels changed. We were traveling throughout lockdown level 5, lockdown level 4. It doesn't matter. We were all over the country. But South Africa moves through the different alerts. In July, new surge in cases led to reclosure of schools. So schools closed, then we sent our kids back, then school closed again. Extended academic year and severe restrictions in July. And then, yay, 8th of May, Ramaphosa inaugurated for a full 5-year presidential term amidst the lowest national voter turnout, and now we've had again the lowest national turnout.
Much lower this time around. Much, much lower. Just remember, Ramaphosa would have been in office for longer than 2 full terms.
Yeah,
And I don't
no,
have no idea how
no
on
one's saying
earth that
anything. No one said he
happened, but
was.
then
Jacob Zuma was impeached, and
yeah,
then Cyril came in before,
he
and he was in the
resigned
election.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he resigned, graceful exit, and then Cyril Ramaphosa took over before
Hmm.
the election took place. Then he was sworn in. So there's going to come a time when he's overstepping his 2 year.
Already,
Past that.
yeah, we will be past that
Mm.
the term period.
And no one's mentioned a word.
No, 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 he will stay till right at the
It
end.
doesn't make
We'll
sense,
see.
though. It's
But
against what it says in the Constitution.
anyway,
December 2020, Presidential Climate Commission launched, in South Africa,
yeah.
to oversee a just transition from coal to green energy. Ha ha ha.
That was a huge push, especially within Eskom. It changed everything within Eskom.
Hmm.
I don't think people understand how much this has caused Eskom to not move forward in building new capacity, the company itself.
Yeah.
And the leadership that took over drove this, especially Andre de Ruyter, was 100% driving this mandate. And you need to understand where it comes from. Our government didn't dream this up. They were told to do this. Okay, let's
Yeah,
continue.
it's a global agenda.
Yeah,
Next. 2021 global events. There's so many fun ones here. The chip shortages. Do you remember the chip shortages? I remember the chip
there's still
shortages.
chip shortages now because of precious
But it was
metals.
definitely a hot topic at the
Yeah.
time. Semiconductors.
Cars.
So semiconductors are manufactured goods. They depend on rare gases and metals. Supply chain disruption, fueled by pandemic lockdowns, trade friction, and increased digital demand, resulted in global chip shortages hitting auto electronics and industrial production sectors. I mean, if you look at the period between pre-2019 and the middle of the lockdown, it was the fastest adoption of smartphone and internet use ever across the world because we had nothing to do. So everyone just ran to their phones. And like we said, use Zoom and YouTube and Facebook and all of those different apps, TikTok, of course.
Something interesting that Michio Kaku has said, the physicist, for those of you that don't know, is the fact that most of the PhDs in America are not from the USA.
Yes.
And that most of them have subsequently left. You're talking about chips now and formed Silicon Valleys in India and in China and in other places. So America is actually not doing that well with regards to their own people being at the forefront of development. America sucked in all the brains from around the world. They've been doing it since forever. Even the most evil freaking people on planet Earth, they got in with their research uh, to give them the power over the planet because they literally believe they run the planet. Russia and China is just a bit of a problem for them.
2021 was such a year for minerals and supply chains and demand and everything. We have the rapid adoption of electric vehicles, renewable power, and tech fuel digitization which triggered surges in demand for lithium, cobalt, nickel, copper, and rare earth elements. However, mining, processing, and refinement struggled to keep up as stockpiles dwindled and prices spiked, revealing risks to global energy transition plans. And then the World Economic Forum cautioned against emerging critical minerals cartels, particularly centered around Chinese dominance. Then the global GDP actually grew globally, approximately 5.9% in 2021, rebounding from the pandemic-induced recession in 2020. And I think a lot of people, not spoken about, but I think people are still suffering the economic ramifications of the
Yeah, the
lockdown.
people are. The people that rebounded here were
Yeah,
not us. It
no,
was the billionaires. A
massive
lot of
corporations.
billionaires uh, tripled or quadrupled their income during this time.
And the World Bank confirms it.
Mm.
They describe in 2021 the inequality pandemic, with global poverty rising for the first time in 20 years, global poverty. And I think it's really put some people on the edge. We are just like, most of us are just one or two crises from complete financial ruin. Firms experienced major breakdowns in supply chains from global demand surges, the ever given blockage in the Suez Canal. Do you remember that? I feel like that was just the other day. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
When this massive
containers.
cargo ship got stuck in the Suez Canal, that resulted in semiconductor shortages and shipping container prices became household concerns.
Also gave people ideas, of course. The Taliban regained control of Afghanistan in August after NATO's withdrawal, ending 2 decades of foreign occupation and creating global ripple effects. While at the moment, Afghanistan is in the news again
It is
because of Sharia law being
indeed.
applied there and women being treated in ways that most people in Western society would frown upon.
Indeed. Okay, so AI and technology 2021 creator economy matures. TikTok overtakes Google as a top domain. Just think about it. Just go onto your whatever you use for social media and just look at a couple of shorts. Never in the history of the world could people with zero skills be able to make money the way they are doing.
Complete idiots.
No skills.
Yeah.
There's ridiculous things that people are creating content around that have helped them become financially independent, which would
No,
never,
millionaires.
it never would have existed without this fourth industrial revolution we have entered.
Imagine how much money Naspers has made out of that.
Indeed. DAL-E and Copilot released to limited users. This is the generation of AI images. I think AI images are still quite easy to spot at the moment, but still. ChatGPT 3 APIs expand. Israel uses AI-assisted targeting in Gaza.
Israel was actually a forerunner, especially during the pandemic, of using digitization and AI, as should be expected.
Mm. NATO starts AI strategy roadmap. And NATO has been center of many a global issue. China's quantum satellite tests continue. The Capitol riot, do you guys remember that? Stoked by algorithmic echo chambers and false claims. This is, I think, when Bill Gates started to get more
Yeah,
vocal about how the internet has become a breeding ground for groups of nutcases to rile each other up.
and it's still the case. So that hasn't gone away. It's very much the case still at the moment.
Yep. And now in South Africa, what happened?
Yeah.
So we had the municipal elections in
Yep.
2021. That was fun for us. Ohm grew to 900 members and we got 6,800 and something votes. Awesome stuff. There were isolated incidents of voter disruptions, like a voting station fire in KZN and protests in Soweto. I remember that. Persistent load shedding
Yep.
was taking place in 2021. Do you guys remember level 5, level 4, level 6? There were some hectic days of no
It got
electricity
worse. It did get worse.
on a large scale. So it
Yeah.
was massive suburbs,
Mm-hmm.
no power for a long time. We lived on a little bit of a hill, so we could see the widespread blackouts. Well, they're not blackouts technically, but we could see how far it was.
The load shedding blocks. Yeah.
We were in the middle of the next one Widespread looting and violence followed the imprisonment of Jacob Zuma. Over 10,000 military personnel were deployed and chaos disrupted. The chaos disrupted fuel and food supplies in Gauteng and KZN. And we were actually in Kantla before,
Just before.
just
Yeah.
before he willingly
Yes. That was the most
gave himself
important thing
up.
to me, the fact that he would, yeah, do things peacefully. Because if he asked for people to annihilate the country, they would have. Easy.
Yeah, it was an interesting
He
situation
has that power.
that we got there.
He's more powerful than the president, for sure.
But you know what was so interesting was how joyful, how joyous and supportive of him the crowds were in his hometown. And
Beautiful hometown.
yeah, stunning.
Clean. There's no Western dirt lying
Not
around.
a cor not
Plastics
a
and stuff.
corporation in
No,
sight, not a shop in sight, nothing.
no.
Very
And
different.
Kanla is a community, a village.
Hmm.
Yeah.
UCT fire, do you guys remember that? The wildfire started on the morning of the 18th of April near Rhodes. The fire was reported to have been started by a homeless person and spread through old pine trees and debris, generating its own wind towards the university campus and the city. We had a lot of important books and I think art as well destroyed by the fire. So it was quite
And then
heartbreaking.
the students also did a good job of that. Do not do that again. This is not a robust keyboard. You have a robust keyboard. Yeah.
2022. Oh, fun. This is when the Russian-Ukraine conflict really escalated into a full-scale war. And I can't believe it's been this long.
Yeah.
Seemed like just
It
yesterday.
started 2014 with a CIA sanctioned coup to get rid of the
That
leaders
president,
that were get stuck to the agreements that were set a long time ago. You should actually go on Google and ask him to show you where US military bases are around the world, and you will understand the conflict. Okay. This is not a rocket science.
Inflation became quite a talking point. Do you remember that as well? 22. I mean, we are still living that. I mean, every year it gets worse. Food prices get worse. So many countries, it wasn't just unique to South Africa. Many countries saw inflation rise rapidly with rates as high as 9.1% in the US and 11.1% in the UK, squeezing households worldwide and raising economic instability. I remember a specific year, and I'm not sure if it was 2022, where a lot of people in Britain could hardly afford electricity because electricity prices went up. And how do you keep warm in a place that snows and is so freezing? So it became almost a life-threatening situation. The world experienced record-breaking heat waves, Europe's worst drought in 500 years, and catastrophic floods in countries like Pakistan. Death of Queen Elizabeth happened in September. End of a 70-year reign marks a significant moment in modern history. Then, of course, King Charles took over. World population surpasses 8 billion. And I remember that was the first thing we covered when we started our Stranger Than Fiction channel before we decided to merge everything to make things easier. And then the James Webb Space Telescope launched in 2022. And fun times, the first malaria vaccine deployed in Africa. That's wonderful. And then a breakthrough in CRISPR cancer treatments and lab-grown meat. Wow.
Yeah.
Approved with
Okay.
sustainability implications. So this has been coming a long time, as you can tell. Bill Gates has been a huge pusher of lab-grown meat. And
yeah, it was approved. So you could now produce it and sell it.
Also in the pandemic, around this time when UCT came out with their insect ice cream.
Yes. How disgusting.
Feeding it to unsuspecting students. It was horrible.
Elon Musk,
yeah.
Finalized his purchase of Twitter. Yeah, that was quite a big deal because it almost started out as a joke. And he's actually responding to people responding on Twitter at the time. And then said, okay, you voted that I should buy the company. And then he goes ahead and does it. So that was a huge deal because it changed the narrative. It gave a platform on which I believe Trump was elected in a big way. There might be other platforms that was also a part of it. But X, when X was created, many things flowed with that. The fact that Elon Musk said he's not going to control what people are saying, etc. So that was a big, big shift. And he's done many, many things since that is world changing. And the fact that one man can change the world, besides being the US president,
Yeah.
is quite something. Bill
Yeah.
Gates being one of them and many others.
Many, for good or
Yeah.
bad. The nice thing about X, I like his vision. Elon's vision is that it's first-hand news across the world in real time. That's technically what it should be used for. Oh, look at this here,
Mm,
post about it. It doesn't mean people use it for that. There's a lot of divisive
mm.
rhetoric there, but it is real-time, uncensored news on the ground by first-hand witnesses across the world. Beautiful. That potential is astounding. Then who made an emergency announcement? I actually remember this,
Yeah.
of the existence of a multi-country outbreak of Mpox. South Africa was center of that scandal, a
Mm.
viral disease and commonly, yeah,
Scandal.
Mpox known as monkeypox. Yes.
Monkeypox.
So it was another driving fear, booster shot,
Mm.
all the rest. And some of our family members, generally speaking, are like, yeah, let's go get our third or fourth or fifth booster. And the rest of us were like, not again.
Here we go again. They haven't
Yeah.
learned their lesson.
And people are just starting to recover. Some people are just starting to get back into work. And there's this threat looming over your head. Could it go the other way again? Could we experience lockdowns again? So just imagine how people are being bombarded with a global conflict, the looming threat of another virus and or lockdowns, and then just trying to survive all of it financially. Quite a lot in the AI and technology world. AI generated art goes viral
Yep.
with backlash from artists, more public e-commerce, more mobile e-commerce. So the specific, I want to focus on the art, the AI art, because everyone had this idea in the trust era, in the age of trust, that if artificial intelligence becomes a mainstream thing, it will be used for the boring, very menial jobs that we don't want. The really boring admin stuff, the really repetitive things, but now AI is being used for art, for music, for coming up with creative ideas, not being used to take the load off of humans so that humans can use their now new free time for art. So it's the wrong way around completely. ChatGPT launched text-to-image tools. AI-based surveillance and predictive policing expand in US and China. But this AI-based surveillance has been a concept in movies for much longer than it's said to be available in the public domain or in
When
government hands.
people like myself spoke about this, uh, we were definitely branded as conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
When companies were already talking about it,
Mm.
governments were already talking about it. I mean, I only spoke about what people were saying because I could spot the things that was going to take your freedom away. So I would normally put links to the articles so that people can see that this is being put out there. Be aware of what is happening.
IBM introduces 433 qubit processor, Osprey. I think it would do well for everyone to just go research exactly how small a qubit is. The realm in which quantum computing takes place is incredibly small and not subject to the normal
Insane.
scientific laws that we
Yeah.
understand or were taught in school or understand from the books we read. So it becomes quite scary. And I can't wait to see what happens in the future with that development. I don't think
This
it should be
last,
humanly possible to
yeah,
harness the power of quantum computing.
this
Anyway,
last part was
talk
unbelievably
about it.
everywhere. AI generated deepfakes of the Ukraine war footage circulating online, and they were everywhere. I was bombarded with this. It was unbelievable. The level, and like today, I actually saw that as well with tons of videos in my feed
Hmm.
about Israel saying that there is no famine in Gaza. Okay. Everywhere in my feed. So it's being promoted and driven in a very, very big way. In the same way, these AI generated war images was about Ukraine beating Russia into a pulp. All of them. And I thought for the first time, Why on earth would there be a video of people being killed allowed on YouTube?
Yeah, it wouldn't.
It makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, if you actually look at the community guidelines
Yeah.
and things like that, it shouldn't be allowed. It should either have an age restriction or something like that if it's educational. But they were there. And I was actually distraught with how prevalent this was.
Mm.
Every flippant day to see, there's another drone video of a drone attacking something. It's like you're being attacked with the fact that drones are the future, firstly, that you can do modern warfare with drones, that your people don't need to be there, and created the narrative that Ukraine was winning.
And
When Russia can
also,
drop one nuke and freaking annihilate the place.
the
Kiev.
other consequence of that is just people feeling absolutely helpless.
Yeah. The Tsar bomber could flatten Kiev, like completely. There'll be nothing left of Kiev. One freaking bomb. So you want to tell me that this is not a way to intimidate us? It's intimidating the people of the world and making us feel a certain way.
It says comply, comply,
Yep.
comply, comply or die.
Do not druk the space bomb.
South Africa. What happened in 2022 in South Africa? We had another fire, people. This time, not the UCT building. No,
Yes.
UCT building was
This
2021.
was another conspiracy theorist uh, nightmare.
It was.
Oh my
I'm
word.
not so sure about the theory part. Cape Town's Fire and Rescue Service was called early in the morning to a fire, notified of a fire at Parliament.
And all the fire hydrant or the fire sprinkler system supply valves were shut.
Indeed, they were.
And there was no one around to look after the place.
So there's many conspiracy theories that have sprung up from this, but there's no conclusion, of course. One poor man got the blame. He was found near the place.
Yeah, inside sleeping.
Yeah, I don't believe it's him. I really don't. Anyway, Eskom implemented stage 46 load shedding during the year, adding to growing public
Yeah, this
frustration.
was the worst.
This was the worst.
Okay.
Rolling power cuts became commonplace and lasting. These were the longest ones. But
It was the worst ever.
load shedding had been an issue for a long time. This was just culminating to a point where we thought, is this even savable? Is the situation
Well, what happened was demand actually dropped during that time. Things didn't get better within Eskom, and it's still not. And I will do content on that pretty soon to show people how bad things actually are. I don't think people want to hear it though.
Inflation soared, unemployment remained high, public protests led by COSATU and other unions erupted across Pretoria, Cape Town, demanding government relief. Yeah, I suppose if you don't live in a metro, you're not as affected by these protests that are taking place. But when I remember when we lived in Cape Town, I mean, you have to plot your route according to these protests.
You're coming out of the COVID pandemic, the most influential parts of
Yeah,
it, yes.
people are really trying to just go back to normal. In April, unprecedented rainstorms triggered massive flooding, killing at least 436 people, destroying nearly 4,000 homes, and 17 billion in damage. And then, do you remember the couch?
Yes. Yeah, well, that was during the previous flood, yeah.
Opposition parties pushed the Constitutional Court to revive impeachment proceedings over the allegations tied to money found at Ramaphosa's game farm, underscoring ongoing governance challenges.
Yeah, more conspiracy theories coming out of that.
It's quite fascinating.
You
The
can see
situation.
who has real power behind them. Not him. He's not powerful. The people behind him is. And if people understand the supply chain of illicit money to get things done, to keep this government going, keep the ANC as an organization going, to destroy the country further, it's just unbelievable the lengths that people will go to actually achieve that objective. And as I said, the people behind objectives like that are not in the ANC. Yeah,
No, the parties are just tools.
absolutely.
No pun intended.
Okay, let's continue.
2023. Sorry. South Africa hosted, I mean, the global event, but local to us. South Africa hosted the 15th BRICS Summit, overseeing invitations extended to Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE. I remember
Nearly
this.
flipping died. I
We
couldn't
actually did a
believe.
video on this.
Yeah.
We did a video on this one. And we were trying to guess what BRICS would be called now. But yeah,
I said then, do you want
you
to do this?
understand.
Do you understand what this is going to cause? We are living with the consequences now.
Mm.
So everything won't happen immediately. But from my background and time in intelligence, I understand how those machinations work, especially with intelligence. And us being buddy or even talking to Iran was a very bad idea at the time because of what the US can do to you. Whether you like the US or not is irrelevant. That wasn't clever.
Mm.
We're now going to be
So
living
it's
with
funny how
consequences.
one's perception of time and events are warped because some of these events feel closer to me.
Yeah.
This one feels way, way older than 2023. India surpasses China as the world's most populous country, and it's also becoming quite a economic
Powerhouse in
powerhouse.
many things, in space, in computers, in everything really. And a lot of those people received their training in the US, did work there, and then left, went back to their countries because what happened? A certain US president chased them all away.
Hmm. Mm. And he's doing so still.
Yeah.
Genius. Turkey Syria earthquake, catastrophic 7.8 magnitude
Mm.
quake, killed nearly 67,000
You
people.
know, I think people don't even flinch when they see things like that these days.
I mean, if you look back in recent history, there's been,
The Christmas tsunami was
yeah, there's
massive.
been
Yeah.
hectic natural disasters, and they do change.
They have happened throughout the ages.
Hmm.
They've always been there. But these were things that affected the world in a
The
big
little
way.
war in Sudan, when there was supposed to be a democracy,
There's still
they
civil
got
war there now. Yeah.
Chinese surveillance balloon. Who remembers that?
Yeah. Goodness.
Appeared over the United States. Everyone was speculating what could it be.
This is such twat. I mean, China can spy on the US in so many different
Or
ways.
subtle ways.
The media around us and everything. When I look at this, I see false flag all the flipping way. It's, yeah, anyway.
Tragedy. It's a huge tragedy, in my opinion. The Titan submersible
Yes.
that
Especially the boy.
imploded. The boy, the son
Yeah.
that did not want to go.
Mm.
I think that's really a tragedy. Doomsday clock. So the official world
Yeah.
doomsday clock was moved ahead, indicating an unprecedented level of world troubles. So just think about it. I mean, in South Africa, we accustomed to trouble, but you've got a lot of conflict, and massive economic crises across the world, and huge problems with supply chains.
Mm.
UAPs become a topic of discussion. So some of us love talking about UFOs and alien life, but that's usually a fringe topic. But now all of a sudden, the pandemic has gone, lockdowns have eased, people are going back to the economy.
And then UAPs all of a sudden become
Hmm.
a mainstream topic.
Hmm.
Fascinating. And if you look at how that's developed up until now, it becomes even more fascinating, tied in to artificial intelligence, the development of quantum computers. Catch the hint, people, and do some research. So, UAPs is key to pushing many thoughts in people's minds and preparing people uh, for certain things, including disclosure, not on UAPs, but on many other things. You need to understand, and I've said this before, and many people will be very upset with me, that certain things will be disclosed that will rock people's beliefs, the things that they grew up with. And some people might believe it, some people might not, but it's going to rock um, many people's religious foundations, and it's definitely necessary for the world elites to create this new one world system that they want to implement, and they need all the fifth generation technology infrastructure in place to be able to do that with AI that consumes vast amounts of energy. They need the energy for that. They need so many things to line up to make this work. So without those things, it ain't gonna happen.
Mm.
They cannot create at the moment super artificial intelligence. They might achieve artificial general intelligence, but not super intelligence without a lot more nuclear power stations. And they mention specifically nuclear power stations because you need stable power, and wind and solar ain't gonna hack it. So
So it really seems like South Africa is earmarked to be a location for many data
oh, we
centers.
we actually have four of the top data centers in the world. So we're the only country on the African
Yeah.
continent that has those.
These data centers are basically the powerhouse of AI technology, not data call centers. I think people, when we did a video on it, judging by some of the comments, people thought we meant data
Yeah.
call centers, no data centers. So yes, just some AI technology. It's a lot, so we'll just cover some of the main ones. Swarm drone coordination, right in the middle there.
Mm.
Swarm drone coordination tech improves, and I believe South Africa now. This was in 2023.
Yes.
What is South Africa doing?
This is becoming the swarm technology with AI is becoming a very big deal now. And they're saying that it's fairly new, but we are funding this.
Yeah,
This is one of the things we're funding to the tune of 480 odd million rand.
unbelievable.
That's a lot of money for South Africa. If you look at the infrastructure you could build
Yeah.
in communities for that amount of money.
It also just makes me think, what does the future of international relations look like? What do relationships of countries look like going forward
Yeah,
with this technology at the disposal of certain leaders?
well, the thing is, people will accept anything but this government. So our people are ready to dispose of government
Yeah, they are.
completely. And we are probably the most ready country in the world to ditch government completely and have corporations and AI run everything.
Yep. People are out there are suggesting it
Yep,
gently,
already.
not perchance.
Hmm.
Also, GPT and agent style AIs begin to surface. This is where they can go book your vacation for you. A little scary. I wouldn't like to release that kind of control. Um, let's see, AI voice cloning of celebrities and politicians used in scams and influence ops. That's a scary one. Like they said, any video out there could be fake. You wouldn't even know it really. I mean, we've watched a couple.
No, AI is really
It's
good
really
at the
good.
moment. Yeah.
Threads, which is Twitter's rival, becomes popular. Surge in AI content creation. So in 2022 and 2021, we got a surge in human content
Mm.
on the internet, human created content. So it's like vlogging your day or whatever. Now we're seeing in 2023. So remember, in 2019, YouTube wasn't a thing yet
Mm.
in
No,
us, in our daily lives here in South Africa. In 2019, 2020, 2021, we started to watch more things on YouTube. 2022, we saw a rise in individual creator content where a person will, I don't know, show their day or their gym workout. There's even mothers that film themselves cleaning the house and they earn a fortune doing so because people will
walking
watch anything.
cat
Yeah,
makes a
the
lot of
most
money.
random
Yeah.
things. But now, between these few years, we are now seeing a surge in AI generated content in 2023. So you can imagine how much worse it is now. I've now realized how much is written on official websites, how much is
At
actually
AI,
written by AI, not by humans. And that's quite scary.
even articles,
Yeah,
many.
official articles on official like
Mm.
news websites.
Some of them actually admit it.
Yeah,
Say this article was
yeah,
written with the help of AI.
yeah. DARPA tests AI pilot simulations. IBM announces 1000 or the 1121 qubit processor. AI avatars in marketing.
Cloud-based access.
Startups begin cloud-based access.
To me, the swarm
Let's-
drone coordination tech is super important because that's a real threat
Yeah,
to our freedom. People shouldn't forget what that actually means and what can be done
it's a
using that
threat
technology.
to national sovereignty. Oh, sorry. It's a threat to our own lives.
Yep. Okay. South Africa.
Yay. The South
We almost say people, this is taking longer. We thought it would be about 2 hours,
the economic
realistically.
freedom fighters led by Julius Malema called for a nationwide shutdown to demand
Yeah.
an end to load shedding and Ramaphosa's resignation. Around 150,000 attend, but most businesses stayed open. I actually remember that. Everyone was like, what's going to happen? And the event largely underperformed.
Now, 150,000 people are a lot. If you could get them in one place, that would be very powerful.
If you could get them 150,000
It
people
was scattered around the country.
organized to action, you could achieve a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But this was just it was a publicity stunt, and it
Yeah.
did not work out that great. Yeah. The African mining in Durban. Wait, before we move on, how many people
We can say that the
actually,
Olympics were cancelled and all sorts of things like this because it ties in with
yeah,
something returning post the COVID pandemic.
yeah.
Many things were
The
stopped.
Olympics come up soon.
Oh,
But
oh, that's a Paris Olympics. I'm talking about the one before.
oh, okay.
Yeah. They actually moved it out.
Yeah.
And there was no one there, no crowd.
Shocking.
Yeah.
The end of sport and
Yeah, the
gender.
end of sport.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
But I mean, so many people feared as we went on tour, spoke to us about how they feared the EFF. Remember, and this culminates into this, where it was really a powerless gathering across the country of 150,000 people. So to gather 150,000 people, in my opinion, is impressive.
Yeah.
But it was nowhere near the expectations. The African mining in Durban returned in person February 2023, signaling the revival of major trade and industry events post-pandemic here in South Africa, that is. One of South Africa's deadliest fires occurred in a hijacked city-owned building.
Yeah, that was quite
Oh,
something.
horrible. 77 killed, mostly undocumented residents. On May the 2nd,
But
Parliament...
I know the fact that many buildings in Joburg, in PE, in Cape Town,
They hijacked it, yeah.
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 It's just there's no control there. Regulations only apply to some people that pay rates and taxes, and to others it doesn't.
Joburg and Pretoria, city centre of Cape Town, parts of Port Elizabeth for sure. I'm sure in many other, in Durban, we've actually driven past some areas like that. It's quite sad because those hijacked buildings could be repurposed beautifully for many things, but instead this happens. On May 2nd, Parliament unanimously added South African Sign Language as the 12th official language, making it a constitutional right in July. So we have 12 official languages now, and a lot of people say this was long overdue,
Yeah.
and here we are. Next, 2024, this is just last year.
Okay, we're almost done now.
Almost.
Yeah.
It's so funny because we've had Trump, Biden, and Trump again in this very short,
Yes.
very, very short period, because the terms in America are only 4 years, not 5 like here. It's very short. Donald Trump wins the US presidential election. I mean, I don't think anyone was really surprised considering the competition. He becomes the first US president re-elected to
That was well said.
a non-consecutive second term, signaling deep polarization and political realignment. And we've just like gone on
But that's the most important
It
thing.
is.
The polarization in America runs deep, and I think the main aim of both the Trump and Biden presidency and Obama presidencies was to get people to not trust the state at all. And this is starting to happen. A lot of people in the Trump base is already starting to not trust him, saying that these people are the same. A lot of people that said that people should vote for him are now saying, nope, look what happens. It's a one-party state. That's what they're starting to call it now. And I predicted this during my tour.
Oh, you did.
That America will literally split in two, because the American government also needs to be broken down, just like the South African government. Yeah.
Return of Syria's Assad regime falls. On December 8th, opposition forces took Damascus, forcing President Bashar al-Assad into exile.
Yeah, he went to Russia with his family.
Global conflicts intensify. Gaza war escalates. Did we cover that earlier?
Well, we didn't speak about the
Wait,
invasion,
no,
but it was there.
okay, in
It was on the slide. Yeah,
2023,
Hamas
we
attacks
actually
Israel.
didn't speak about it, but in 2023, Hamas
It's
attacks
such a
Israel.
hot thing still at the moment.
Yeah.
We can just talk about it broadly at the end. Yeah.
So global conflict intensify. UN ICJ orders Israel to prevent genocidal acts. Protests ignite on Western campuses, and we can see this heating up even this year
Yeah,
in
big time.
2025. It's coming
Well,
to a boiling point where more and more people are picking a side.
I will be talking about this in my meetings. Yeah, like Adrian Lasson today, the chief editor of News 24, actually wrote an article where he said you need to choose a side. And yeah, it's a dangerous thing to do. I was very surprised that he did it. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because Israel is going balls to the wall, um, saying that Hamas is doing everything, stopping aid, etc. And on the other side, Israel is being accused of all sorts of things. The UN Secretary General actually said there has to be a two-state solution now, and under international law, XYZ should happen, and international countries should pressure Israel into stopping all this nonsense right now. It's I still have to see the fallout of that because that happened just now. So this is ongoing. But in our meetings, when we travel now, I will be talking about the consequences of this and the aims, how this is supposed to affect the next 10, 20 years of your life and the world.
The first, unlike America, the first AI Act is passed on the 13th of March. The EU approved the world's first comprehensive legal framework regulating artificial intelligence, setting a precedent for global governance of powerful tech.
Yeah, and then Trump is peeved about it. He's so flippin' peeved. So in America, I mean, he's passed this beautiful bill where AI tech, no regulation is allowed in any state for up to 10 years. I mean,
He's
that's
just a
quite a bold move.
spokesperson for
Yeah,
big
no,
tech. That's all.
absolutely. He was never in charge of anything.
Sweden joins NATO the 7th of March, becomes a 32nd member, marking continued European realignment amid security recalibration.
Well, I think that's happening throughout Europe
Yeah.
at the moment.
What we touched on earlier, Paris Olympics reveals a work agenda. That was quite shocking.
For
Being
those of
purposely
you that saw it, it was an attack on athletics
was.
and gender-based
Absolutely.
athletics.
As a family that's personally invested in athletics because of our kids, we obviously were excited to watch it. And it became very PG-13.
Yeah, our kids were stunned.
I
We
couldn't
actually couldn't
scram
let them
for
watch it.
the remote fast enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is when I wish I had the remote in my hands at that time. They literally alluded to a threesome with
Shocking.
non-binary people. And what has that got to do with
Nutcase.
athletics? Athletics is about showcasing the strongest men and the strongest women in
It was
biggest
it was a slap
competitions.
in the face of the
Oh,
Olympics and
shocking.
what it stands
Shocking,
for.
shocking, shocking. In the dirty Rhine River of Paris. Remember the mayor? I think it was the mayor. She
Yeah,
jumped in and
same.
swam.
Yeah.
And she obviously didn't get water in her mouth because the swimmers did, and they
They
got
got
sick.
sick.
Quite a number
Yeah.
of them got sick. And it was quite funny because I think we look at our rivers, they're very filthy here in South Africa, but it's not unique. We have a human crisis. We have a crisis of systems that are failing worldwide. Donald Trump, the Republican presidential nominee, survives an assassination attempt. This was before he was actually elected in November later. Do you remember that? I mean, that feels like around the corner as well. Where his ear got shot off.
Not shot off, a whole little nip out of his ear. And that's
Yeah.
hectic. His ear got shot off.
He had a Van Gogh moment.
Wow. But that changed the elections as well. And the thing is, this is the first time where artificial intelligence, algorithms, and social media platforms elected a president more than
He
anything
made
else.
himself the underdog.
Yeah.
And people love an underdog. Brilliant. Brilliant campaign strategy in play. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange pleads guilty and ultimately is freed from a British prison and allowed to return to Australia. And then AI and technology, hypersonic AI missile guidance and real-time combat simulation roll out. So I think, We see the social media side like as just individuals. We see the social media side, we see the picture generation, we see all the apps available to us on Canva, for instance, that makes use of specific AI tools to bring your marketing material to a whole new level. We see ChatGPT expand and become more practical to use. We see a lot of things on that kind of personal level. But what we maybe not keeping up to date with because the news doesn't report it either, especially local news like News 24, if that's your only source of news, you're not going to see this. But the use of AI technology in military is probably one of the big, well, and surveillance, but it's one and the same, is probably one of the biggest threats to humanity.
We are in the forefront of developing that. South Africa has been a prolific developer of drones for decades. I mean, we developed drones in the 70s already. And we were a front runner in developing non-manned aerial vehicles for surveillance and many other things for a very, very long time. And those things are coming back again. So you will see companies like the Nell and many other associated companies really spark in the future. And the US is involved in many of those things. So don't think for one moment that the US is not going to get out of this country what they want. They absolutely will. They do control it. The CIA is infiltrated everywhere, everywhere. And there's a channel that many people watch of a person that manipulates that even further. But yeah,
Voice AI robocalls in the US election. And then I've been trying to find this video everywhere, but I can't. But South Africa apparently sees its first AI generated fake political party campaign clip. And has obviously been scrubbed from the internet.
yeah, remember with the last elections, they created this platform where you could report fake things.
In fact, there was a global organization that worked with the IEC
Yeah.
to combat the spread of misinformation and basically deepfake
But if you
during
look
the
at News
election.
24, they omitted a whole lot of parties completely in the list of what they stand for.
Good. That only included the ones that
So
made it.
how is that fake news?
No, that's not fake news.
Yeah, they knew beforehand who was going to make it. And they only promoted those.
Yes.
Okay, now we're on to
They
South
only
Africa.
promoted the ones that share certain funders.
Yes, correct.
Ultimately. South Africa, general election, yay, that was us as well. We were in it. ANC loses the majority. This is the first time ever. The party obtains 40.18% of the votes for the first time
We
since
remember
1994.
Helen's prediction in 2019, recorded at
yes.
Tembo.
Yes. Do you want to speak about that quickly?
Yeah, just imagine that the ANC gets 40% and the DA doesn't do that well but gets like 20%. That'll make us give us enough power to actually control things in government.
But you said don't get more than 20%.
Don't get more than 20%.
That was the scandal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is exactly how it panned out.
I know. And yet some people will still be like, oh, isn't it wonderful? The GNU, the government's finally working together. Some people really still have that view and it's very sad.
It's okay.
But
things will happen, like I say, and then they must feel the pain of their stupidity.
Indeed. So the
Big driver for change, pain,
I
financial
still can't
pain.
believe this happened, but the National Health Insurance Act was signed. This creates a state fund to phase out private health
We have
plans.
no freaking money to do this at all, but it's signed.
Yeah,
Because
and
people want it. It's
a lot of
political.
people spoke out against the cost. It's just not sustainable at all in our current circumstances.
It's not
just
that it's
won't
not
work.
sustainable. It can't even start.
Yeah.
It can't even get off the ground.
And then, of course, you have a lot of people now thinking you can just rock up to a private hospital and get care, but you can't because the right to healthcare, as stated in the Constitution, it's about what the government provides. It's not about what private business provides. And that's where the gray area comes into play. The former ANC speaker is charged with corruption. Yeah, I remember that. That was unbelievable. Nosiviwe resigns and faces criminal charges, highlighting governance and accountability breakdowns. Now, this is obviously a pandemic in our government. Zuma and his party MK barred by Constitutional Court, expelled from the ANC. So MK was actually officially registered just before the elections of 2024, just last year. They've made waves in the political landscape.
Proper ways.
And I think ultimately it's...
Zuma still has a court case going to be reinstated as an ANC member, for whatever that means. Do you think he's doing it just for fun?
Yeah, just to waste their time. IFP joins Unity Coalition with ANC and DA. Ramaphosa is re-elected president.
Yeah, because of them. Yeah.
Yes. So we're still in the same situation. We're still powerless in this country with regards to who's in charge.
But I wonder now if people can really feel the impact of the massive change from 2019 till now. How much has changed in the world and how the rapid pace of things changing actually makes a person immune to that amount of change.
Does.
How many of you feel after listening to all this that, not much has happened? Because that is literally the effect.
I don't think we are biologically capable of internalizing the weight of all these different changes over the last 5-ish years. I think it's impossible. So you have the breakdown of family and gender. You've got permanent conflict, big permanent conflict, at least in 1 or 2 places across the world at any given time.
Big conflicts. Compared to the Second World War, these are big conflicts.
Got major tech companies basically dictating to presidents and directing our future with no accountability whatsoever. What else is there? How we interact with each other completely changed. You know, another thing, before the pandemic, no one really bothered as much about whether they're introvert or an extrovert. But then during the pandemic, I noticed the introvert being used way more, that term. We've become silos. We have isolated ourselves even post-lockdown. It's a fact, we just do not socialize as much or in the same way as we used to, generally speaking, which I think is a huge problem.
And that's why in these meetings, I want to see people face to face again. I think it's going to give me a good idea of where people are at, how people feel. It'll be a good gauge. And we'll see if people actually want to have meetings. That's the other thing. You know, with the amount of meetings that people have asked for already, we will see how many more there will be. We had over 300 meetings before, remember? I mean, lots. So I'm willing to do the meetings. Do the people actually want them?
We'll see. Because what we've also seen, here in South Africa specifically, because it was available before overseas, is Netflix, Disney, Prime, all these different channels that have endless entertainment. How many people would rather stay home and watch a series than go out and interact and experience social anxiety? Because when you go out and interact with people, there is obviously in South Africa inherent risk with crime. There's the fear of rejection, the fear of being ripped off, the fear of not having a good time. So people would rather be at home. So we have seen a complete change in how people interact with one another.
Digitization has made that possible.
We are very digitized.
Okay, shall we move on?
Yes.
To major societal shifts.
So there have been in history, history is a bit more complicated than what we read about, obviously. There's nothing really set in stone. When we talk about different periods, I think there's a lot more overlap between the different years and centuries than what is made out. But regardless, we'll be speaking about the different societal shifts throughout history to give us a perspective of where we are. And this came out of my fascination with the first industrial revolution, because the way I see it, we were just like farmers, random farmers, doing a thing, growing our crops, populations grew. And next minute, we're in the industrial phase. It does not add up to me. As much as I can read over and over and over again about how it was a natural progression, to me, it doesn't add up. There's something missing. There's something we don't know. But anyway, let's start from ages ago, 800 to 200 BCE, the Axial Age. This is where, I suppose, cultural beliefs.
This is the last slide.
Yeah, and then, yeah.
We're going to be talking about what's next, yeah.
where cultural belief systems and local religions gave way to a broader school of philosophical thought and questioning. And I think it's quite exciting. Think of Socrates and those great thinkers of the ancient times, where they started to question things. And I think that's beautiful. So we moved from a tribal identity to universal ethics and metaphysics. Really cool. And you've got the Greeks, you've got the Arabs, you've got the Chinese, and a few other nations all coming together, not literally, but questioning the status quo in that sense. Then you got the Renaissance. Some people hypothesize the Renaissance didn't actually happen, which is understandable. It's actually quite a compelling argument. But essentially, we went from the shift was a human-centered thinking flourishing from art, science, critical questioning, and tradition of religious authority, at least to a degree, not fully yet. Then came the Enlightenment, and out of Enlightenment was the Bavarian Illuminati born.
Correct. Yeah.
Out of the Renaissance is where we actually saw the beginnings of this global financial system that basically bought monarchies and caused those very monarchies to fall later down the line. The Enlightenment is an interesting one. Reason, liberty, scientific method, democracy, those are the principles that people started to believe in. Faith in rationality and individual rights. So it must have seemed so rebellious compared to the previous era, and the emergence of secular governance and empirical science. So it definitely looks like progress compared to life before then. And then you got the industrial and scientific revolutions of the 18th and 20th century, which I find fascinating. This is mechanization, urbanization, and mass education. This is upon which the school system is built. And yeah,
And it's important to see that mechanization and urbanization ties in with that because you needed people that could do certain things, work.
that very work will be
Slave
replaced
system, yeah.
now in this new system that we're in. So yeah, in the Industrial Revolution, it was really about mastery over nature. It's really about domination, actually, but also alienation and the birth of modern society. So we really broke away from the village construct. We broke away from that tribal mentality. We broke away from a sense of close community. I think the nature of anything sacred just left, and it was replaced with industry, science, tangible things. This is where I see the white picket fence America just took root. The 1960s, counterculture and global rebellion. This is Woodstock, hippies, civil rights, refusing to go to war, psychedelic exploration, CIA operations as well, Eastern spirituality. I see it as, and I put rebellion in.
Feminism.
Yeah, feminism, of course, yes. In the rebellions in inverted commas, because it was very much an orchestrated thing. It wasn't a natural human evolution.
There's
It
actually
was
very few things currently that are
orchestrated
funded.
very specifically. People were manipulated into going down that route. So we got a global questioning of authority, but again, in an orchestrated way. Rise of personal liberation, ecological and cosmic awareness. So things changed a lot. Then finally, where we are now. So with the 1960s, I think this is the actual start of the breakdown of the family unit. One could argue that it actually started in the Industrial Revolution, but I think it really took root in the 1960s with feminism, as you say. And then the digital and information age. This is where we are now. Catalysts are the internet, smartphones, social media, AI, just what we've explained. We have endless access to information. I don't think we're necessarily biologically used to or supposed to have that much information coming at us. I don't think we know what to do. I think our bodies can very easily go into fright mode or flight mode.
People don't actually question that these massive cables have been laid all over the ocean across continents to connect people. Like, who do they belong to? What territories do they cross? So there's many paradigms that have changed like data, people selling cell phone data, like in South Africa, that it actually expires when it doesn't in other countries. And there's no recourse for many of these things. With artificial intelligence, certainly very little
So
recourse.
lastly, with the one important thing with the digital and information age is I think there's a dilution of cultures and a dilution of our identity. The more widely we're able to communicate with one another and share ideas, I actually think the more similar we will become. So we become global citizens. Sovereignty of a nation no longer matters. That's the age we're in right now. So our question as we end this is, what's next?
Yep.
I've called it what we titled the previous phase. When we started with the age of disruption and awakening in the end of 2019. And it's both disrupting and it's awakening what's happening in the world. And what's that going to lead to? What's the next societal transformation that we are going to enter? I'd like to think that we are in control to a degree of where we go if we take collective action.
Yeah, I believe that the next big thing will be a extinction level event crisis. In other words, you will start seeing people talking about very much the same ocean currents like in The Day After Tomorrow, the movie, happening, that the Earth's tilt has shifted by 35 inches because of the pumping of underground water near the equator. You're going to start seeing many things like that happening, and many different narratives will be able to be built around global catastrophe, and that reason will be given why humanity is going to literally become extinct. And I think people underestimate right now how strong that'll become from 2030 onwards. And even in the build up to then, we are being prepared for that right now,
Because it is
as
going
well
to
as
happen.
disclosure.
What do you mean?
As well as disclosure. I can tell you at the moment that there's at least three types of events being looked at that scientists know will happen in future.
Mhm.
They cannot say exactly when, but if any of those events happen, according to their climate models of the world, we will not exist unless we seek shelter or leave the planet. And you're going to see many things, many talks happening around. When I'm in my meetings, I will talk about it more.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's going to be interesting. Extension level events
Yeah.
in the near future. Um,
There's been so many movies on things like that,
mm,
and you'll do well to go and watch many of them.
mhm.
It won't be a waste of time because you're going to get many ideas around what will be happening around the world.
So I guess it's then an era of preparation
Yeah.
and
People will be mentally prepared for disclosures. And this won't be what people think it is, that there's aliens in the universe or anything like that. It'll be far more profound. It'll shock them to the core. It'll break down their religious beliefs completely. That's what will come.
so a complete breakdown of a person's internal reality to
Mhm.
usher in a completely
New system.
a new system.
Correct. And I really want to thank you all for joining us. It was really awesome to have you for this presentation. We wanted to do it quite a long time ago, but at least we've gotten to a point now where we managed to do this, and I hope you really benefited from it.